Hello and welcome to Reservoir Red Dogs with Matt Ford and Paul McGregor. Another lockdown special. Paul, how you doing?
How am I doing? Pretty much
Big question.
The same as last time and the same as the time before that.
Well, today's guest is a real treat. This is, I know after every episode I say I think that was one of the best, but that's because all the guests we have on can talk so well and they've all got a different experience of Forest. But obviously it was a massive deal to get Sean because he's a Premier League football manager.
Wow, yeah.
Obviously, because of the lockdown, I imagine that helped. But it was just so good of him to come on. And I don't know what you thought, but what's obvious throughout this interview is he loved his time at Forest.
Yeah, and he had that, he had those amazing halcyon days of being around Clough in the youth team, as I did, when, you experience this guy as, straight out of school and he's your first gaffer. And just how bizarre. I mean, we discussed it in the podcast, but just how crazy the day-to-day was when you'd come out and you'd see your mates in the pub or whatever, or you'd speak to your mum and dad when you got home and they were just like, what happened? And you're like, oh yeah, we did this. Right, okay. Like 4 months ago, you were getting told off by your headmaster at school, and now you've got Brian Clough staring down you. And to have that with a load of lads that are like really in your informative years, and you're becoming a man and you're learning how to be a man, having Clough guide that with a group of people that just, got a little bit of money and don't care, and young lads and talented and all that kind of stuff. It's just wild. And I think Dyche kind of looks back on those days as I do, as just being, some of the best of his life.
The stories, and you're about to learn this, the stories just fall out of him. We barely had to prompt him. He's just got so many vivid memories.
And I really had the impression...
hits you.
It does, yeah. And I really had the impression that he could have gone on and wanted to go on and wants to come back. he just loved it. And yeah, like you say, we barely had to say a word. It was just a little bit of prompting and off he went. And he could have gone on, couldn't he? And on and on and on.
He can. You're about to find out what we're talking about here. Enjoy. And this is a real treat, Sean Dyche. And we're delighted to be joined by former Forest trainee and now Premier League manager Sean Dyche. Sean, this is probably the first time you've spoken or seen Paul McGregor since you left Forest.
It is.
What a treat for you.
Yeah, exactly that. Same bad outfits as always. But to be honest, I didn't cross over. I'd gone, but because of my kind of living in Nottingham and my social set was still the lads who were Forest players. So he'd come along a bit later. And so we kind of crossed over more off the pitch than on the pitch, that's for sure. I was with an earlier group than Macca's. So, yeah. But, yeah, we know each other enough to have a story or two.
I think it was about a year, Dyche won. It was only about a year.
Yeah, I think so. But you were like the new... No, it was a couple of years, actually. You were sort of the new era, if you like, your age group. I was more the Gary Charles kind of era. Me, Gary Charles, Mark Crossley, Steve Stone, who's a big friend of mine still now. Woney was older, but obviously I lived with him for a bit, so that's how we got to become mates.
And Loco as well.
Yeah, Loco's still with us, yeah. Keeney, of course. There was a good group of us, good little... not really a band of brothers, but a good group of lads who got on, you know what I mean, and made sure we enjoyed Nottingham. So
what were your first impressions of Macca when you first met him, Sean?
Well, I didn't know him that well. So like I say, it was more through the other lads. Like most young footballers think that they've got it cracked now. He was another one. They always do. You know what I mean? Had the hairdo and all sorts of band and all that bollocks, you know what I mean? Of course you are. Yeah, of course you are. Well, it wasn't the first time, you know what I mean? It wasn't our first rodeo at some of that sort of stuff. So people think, honestly, footballers think it's new now, like they're all having themselves and all that. They can all, they're lumps of chocolate now, they can eat themselves. So trust me, it hasn't changed that much.
And you were wise to it back then?
Well, I was in a different school. Don't forget, I was just on the edge of the old school. So we got slapped into place really, really quickly. A tiny little example is like when we used to go out in Nottingham, so it was 87, sort of the first time I was going out was, probably 87, 88. Like you would never say to someone you're a footballer. If the lads heard you doing that, you'd get absolutely caned in the dressing room. Whereas now it's the second thing out of a footballer's mouth. My name's Sean, I'm a footballer. If we said that back in the day, oh my goodness, we'd have got ruined. Absolutely ruined.
Why?
Because it was just not the done thing. It was always like, I don't know, it was always like a bit big time Charlie, so the lads wouldn't have it. You know, the first team lads then, they controlled everything. They wouldn't have it. If they found out, you get the old curly finger into the first team room, and you know, you either earned your way in there or you've done something wrong if you got in there.
So were you going out with the first team back then, like Psycho and Des?
No, not really. Later on, a bit later on, so in my early years, me, Steve Stone, a lad called Craig Boardman, Loco.
Stan.
Stan.
Ledge.
Stan, yeah. There was a group of us who used to knock around. Back then, it was the club, which changed to Venus, so we used to knock around there. And then kind of after that, when you get older, especially when you play first team football, so I went off playing at 18 at Chesterfield when I was a young pro at Forest. I went on loan. It's funny, it changes then. The players, they treat you with a bit more respect, a bit in a higher regard, really, because once you're out there playing at any club anywhere in the country, they're sort of like, no, you're a first team player, you're playing first team football. And then Piercy was always brilliant. Piercy always looked after me. He knew I was still in the group. We'd go gigging. He'd always get me involved, take me. We're still friends today, still friends now. I spoke to him just the other day. But they were all good, I must say. That we had a group of pros. I mean, I look back now, Nigel Clough's another one I speak to now, you know, obviously manager at Burton, but now and again I speak to him. Brian Rice was a scout for me. Franzi I've spoke to because he does a bit of agency. Des, when I just bumped into him. I mean, these were top pros, but top guys as well when I look back. There was no airs and graces, just really, really good fellas, you know, look after you.
So what gigs were you going to with Psycho? Were you going to see Green Day at Rock City, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, firstly...
Stiff Little Fingers is Skipper.
Yeah,
he must have been to about 30 Stiff Little Fingers gigs at Rock City.
Oh, he's been so many. I mean, the first, I mean, he is genuinely mad for it, right? I'm a bit more of a user-friendly. I kind of pick and choose. He is mad for it. He'll just ring me now and he'll go... I'm up in your neck of the woods or whatever. And I go, all right. And he goes, yeah, I've just travelled up to watch, like you say, like the Stranglers, Stiff Little Fingers or someone like that. And you're like, really? Who are you with? And he'll go, no, it's Tommy Todd. You just go, oh, fair enough.
The last time I met him was on Talk Sport and he went, what are you listening to at the moment? So I've just been listening to the Levellers. He went, yeah, people think I'm only into punk, but I like anything with a fiddle in it. I've seen the Dropkick Murphys at Barrowlands in Glasgow on St Paddy's Day. You know, even the cabbie saying, Psycho, what are you doing in these ends? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, he is like that, and he always was. He was always mad for it. He'd always look after us. So we used to get Chaz, the groundsman, knock him a few quid, and he'd travel, you know, drive us wherever. Mainly within reason. We used to go locally to Rock City. The first gig I ever saw actually was with Piercy and the lads was Spirit of Destiny at Rock City. Wow. And then it was good. Really enjoyed it. And then we saw
played with them.
Like I say, Stiff Little Fingers and. Loads back then, Big Country, the Stranglers, Mad for the Stranglers, all sorts of different things. You know, now and again we'd meet up, take the girlfriends, you know, but really it was the lads. Really, we'd go and watch a few gigs, not all the time, but when they were around. But usually within reason, it'd be an hour and a half. I remember going up to Leeds and places like that, but never miles away. Knebworth was the big one, of course. We all went down to Knebworth. Did the limo and all that nonsense.
Wow.
I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that might be the first time I met you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I come round. You had a flat in the park.
Yeah.
And we'd had a night out the night before, and I said I'll be round in the afternoon to jump in the limo. So we were first in the limo having a bottle of water, and just to start the day off at about 12 o'clock, and then.
And when we say limo, let's clarify. It was a big, stretch, white, gross 80s Patrick Bateman limousine, wasn't it? To go and see Oasis.
If you're going to do it wrong, do it right. That was properly utter classless, but great fun. We must have. I don't even remember, Mac. We picked up the lads from the airport.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We picked them at the airport. Then we went from there, travelled across to Knebworth, which is a weird journey. It's an awkward journey.
Yeah.
We had a few scoops, let's say, and I don't know how many we had in there. I tell you what, it weren't 6. I'm telling you, there was like 9. I don't know. I remember getting in there and thinking, how many are we picking up here? And there was just like, it was like a comedy film, you know, picking them all. You know what I mean? So
I don't remember much from the show. I know I was there. I've got the ticket stubs.
Well, don't you remember we, as we pulled in this big stretch, they were banging on the roof and that. Don't you remember? They thought we were the band. They were all banging on the roof for the fans. Yeah, because we were late in. So, you know, the supports or whatever on. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we were having it raw. We were buzzing off it. You know what I mean? We were blacked out now. And then because Piercy obviously, and Scott, by the way, Scott Gemmell, he loves his music, Scott. And
full on.
I mean, he saw, I think there was a famous story of him seeing Oasis with like 50 people in the crowd and stuff, you know.
He saw them in the Charlotte in Derby in front of 35 people.
Wow. I knew it was something like that. I thought it was Manchester, but yeah, it must have been Derby then. But I knew he knew Alan McGee well. So if you remember, we were in the Creation Records tent. We had one or two after like a shandy, like you do. I remember funny things you remember back. I don't even remember this. We'd been there all afternoon. There's some great bands. I was listening to all that, but there was a big screen in there, free bar and all that, so having a drink. And actually, because being footballers, we're all having a ball and we're all having a bit of banter and that. And they actually came and said, no, you've got to go out. And we said, why? And they said, the band are on. They were going, can't we watch them in here on the big screen? I was like, no, you can't. I remember clear as day.
It's all flooding back to me now. I remember us being stood near. We were stood near a few supermodels. I remember Kate Moss dropping a stool on my foot, and me being delighted. And I turned around. And I was like, "Oh, ow!" Tried to make banter, and she absolutely gave me the biggest custard. And I thought I looked the bollocks. And
yeah, well, if you remember, there was like the VIP bit, which was the Creation Centre. Then there was the VIP and the VIP.
Yeah.
He got the old curly finger.
I do remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
No, but to be fair to him, you know,
we were pure coattails, weren't we?
Yeah, but he was good at this because he always went, well, I will if there's 7 of us. He'd never leave you standing. He wouldn't leave you out there. He'd go, no, I'll come in if 7 or whatever, the lads can come in. So I must say, he was always first class like that. And he still is now. Yeah. He's still a real down-to-earth sort of bloke, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I never knew there was this chapter of the history of Knebworth, of the greatest one of the greatest, or the biggest rock and roll concert in the history of the country, was that half the Forest squad are there backstage. So were you mates with the band as well?
Yeah, it was McGee that sorted it. It was me and Scott that. Well, it was Scott essentially that sorted it through McGee.
By the way, he's only trying to get on it.
I was jumping off the back of that one. The reason why I said that was me and Scott used to go. We used to follow the Verve around the world. In pre-season, at the end of pre-season, so I did get to know McGee a few times in New York. So I do apologise. That was a slip of the tongue. It was Scotty that sorted that out.
No, Scott knew him, like properly knew him, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
And he'd been on loads of different, gigs and that he'd invited him to. Because Scott was designated driver, you see, he didn't drink, so he'd drive everywhere. He used to get his mates from Derby who he grew up with, and they'd go, we'd have a night at Nottingham. He'd come in on the weekend and just say, no, I went to see whoever, Manchester and Birmingham and all that. So. No, he was mad for his music, Scott.
So where did you watch the gig from? Where were you stood during Knebworth, both of you?
No, that was the thing. So we were going to watch it in this tent with a big screen, right? Because it was a free bar, obviously. We had these good passes, so we kind of went. There was like a channel leading up to the stage. Like it kind of came out in lines going out. The main mosh pit, but then on the side. So we had I must say, we had really good tickets and stuff. But sort of just on the angle, but not far from the stage. I mean, you're in a real good position to see it all. I mean, I know they looked after us. I mean, it was, amazing. Well, iconic gig now, isn't it? You know what I mean? But at the time, you got to remember, you don't think like that when you're there. I've been to loads of good stuff, and then years later, people have gone, do you know that was like this or that was that? And I go, no, just went, had a ball and got off. You know what I mean? So you're not thinking at that time, oh, it's an iconic gig. You're just thinking, oh, got tickets to go and see Oasis. Let's go and have it right off, and then. Get home. So.
You can thank me later, Dyche.
Yeah, it's a fair one, yeah. Taking ownership.
So were there any other big gigs or festivals you two were at together?
No, I think it was all bits and bobs, really. It wasn't, I don't remember big, that was the main one. I mean, but that's hard to forget that one for obvious reasons. But no, it was more little stuff, really. We wouldn't really go to that many of the big ones. It'd all be, like Piercy, like Mac was saying, he quite into the smaller old school and all that, I mean, now and again, like I say, we go out with the girls sometimes. We went Simply Red and stuff like that. We had a Christmas do. I'd only just left Forest a couple of years ago, and we had a Christmas do to watch Madness in Berlin, and that was a night, to be fair. So that was a good crack, that's for sure. So, yeah, but, generally just out and about. I mean, the last time I went with Piercy was Green Day. Bringing you up to more recently, obviously. In Manchester, he said, look, Green Day, I haven't seen them. He said, I'm telling you, they smash it. And they did. They smash it. So, yeah, that was the last time I saw him for a gig.
So you come to Forest in 87 as a trainee. You grew up in Kettering. How did you get spotted by Forest?
Well, it's a different system then, which I won't bore you with. But basically, you could just traipse around other clubs. You know, it wasn't like where you now, you know, they sign in all the documentation. You could traipse around until you were more or less 14, and then they offered you I can't remember what it was called then, like a youth contract.
Schoolboy forms, wasn't it?
Schoolboy forms, yeah. And I didn't have to, you don't have to sign them. So I waited a bit because it was mainly between Chelsea not like it was then, but equally Forest not like it is now. You know, they were big at the time, as you know, around 87. And I was really close with side at Chelsea and Forest and a couple of others, Leicester and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed Forest. I loved the lads that I used to play with as I was growing up, Stoney and Gary Charles and people like that. Plus, you know, London life at that time, Ketterin's a pretty small town, you know, and the Forest digs and everything were right next to the ground. And I just had a feeling for Forest. You know, I enjoyed my time there, enjoyed the feeling. I'd been playing there since I was about 13, 14, so I knew the script and got the chance and signed and got on with it as a scholar. Well, apprentice, as they call it.
How much of a draw was the gaffer?
I know, to be honest, you didn't really know that much about him. I mean, at the time, it was people like Alan Hill was big in the youth system.
Yeah. Alan Clark.
Yeah, Alan Clark, Alan Hill. You'd come across Archie Gemmill, but more distantly until you were a scholar, obviously.
Yeah.
There were some good young coaches there. Mick Rayner, Trainer Rayner, of course.
Mick Rayner,
yeah.
Mick Connolly.
Yeah, and just kind of got a feel for it. Like you do, you know, you're young and you're impressionable and you just get a feel for, you know, where you want to end up. So when it came my way, I decided to take it, go there.
And then once you're at Forest, how much exposure did you have to Clough as a trainee?
It was a strange one, really, because he sort of, like his fingerprints were over everything. And for as much as there was times when they said, oh, you know, he wasn't there and stuff, but he used to go to all the games. I mean, I don't go to anywhere near the games he used to go to. He used to go to youth games on a Saturday morning. He'd go to the reserve games. He'd go, obviously, first team games. So for though he wasn't always in the training ground, or on the training pitch, he was around a lot. So, you know, you'd be and you always knew, because when Del Boy came in, you knew he was around. So Del Boy used to come in and everyone used to suddenly go, and just start dodging everywhere, you know what I mean? We always had a crack, and I'm sure you've heard this before from all the different people you spoke to, but if ever you decided to open the drying room door, there used to be a drying room around the corridor, there'd just be about 20 players in there. I always had this vision. I mean, Desi and all that, but they'd just dive in the drying room. So I had this vision, he'd open the door and everyone would just be standing there going, morning.
Or the boot room, wasn't it? The third room of the boot room.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
In the back.
Yeah, because there was like the first boot room, and then there was a little cubbyhole, but then there was a further cubbyhole at the end. Like the third one, there's no use to go to the third one, you know what I mean? So yeah, we just used to hide, really.
And did you ever have to walk Del Boy?
Yeah, there's loads of stories. So just to clear this up, because if anyone listening who was you know, it's like the old cane, yeah, oh, you didn't play for the first team, that's correct, I didn't. You know, you didn't do this, do that. So I'll only give you my account of the realities of the story, but it's fair to say I don't lie very often, so I think you'll find mine are correct and the others are all. So there's a famous story of walking Del when the dog got lost, and everyone puts it on Gary Charles, because Gary Charles is a big name player and all that, but it was me and Charlesy, we were big mates, and still are, I still speak to Charlesy now. And we went round, because he used to ring the digs, you see, and just say, can you send a couple of the shit houses round? So we'd go like, all right. So we used to jump over the wall back then, go through. So one day he said, take Del for a walk. So we were like, yeah, okay. Lost him, honestly. And we were like, oh my God. And I was like, Charles is a year older than me. I said, Charles, you've got to tell him, you're like the blue-eyed boy. You're the best player they've got. You know, he's proper footballer, by the way, Gary Charles. I'm telling you, he's a young lad. Him and Lee Glover. Yeah. Miles in front of the curve.
Wow.
So anyway, so we took Del for a walk. Me and Charles, we were just having a bit of banter and like messing around. And we couldn't find him. He just bolted. And we were like, oh my God, because Del knew the area, obviously, because we go along the river down near the training ground. So we finally sort of think, we've got to go back. So we go back and we're like, you tell him, no, you tell him, no, you tell him, no, you tell him. And we heard him. And we went, oh my God. So we walked in, and Charles is quite sharp. And I'm sure to this day, Charles went something like, you know, all right, boss, all right, Del, as if like, you know, as if like, just do it, you know what I mean? And if he would have looked at me, I was a bit more innocent. Charles is like a London street kid. He was sharp. I was a bit more innocent. I was a bit more green. I was probably like this going, cane me, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah. So yeah, we all that sort of mad stuff, you know what I mean? He used to get us out doing his garden at his house, and you know, just stuff that people wouldn't really think of, you know what I mean?
I've had both of those experiences. Del was an absolute nightmare. I used to have to take him everywhere. He'd be like, "Don't bring him back till he's done his business."
Yeah.
So I'd be stood there with the dog. Dog just, I could swore, was smirking at me. Sat there just like, "Come on, mate." I've got John Perkins staring at me. I've got a dog smirking at me. Everyone's waiting for the dog to shit so I can go and train.
Yeah.
And then I remember this one time taking the dog back up, having not trained because it took him an hour to shit, to get into the dressing room, and Cloughie going, "Good lad, go and take £20 off my desk." And I went in, mate, there was stacks of 20s like this on his desk.
Well, you know what? We used to go out to his house, right, doing the garden, and the end, I'll start at the beginning, but the end is similar about the £20 note. So we'd go out there, and really it was almost like, I think he just wanted company around him. He enjoyed the young lads being around. So there'd always be like 4 of us. We'd Chaz, who was a groundman, good fella Chaz, he'd jump in his Sierra, I remember that, and he'd drive us over there. So we'd go over there, but really we'd like brush his drive and, stuff that wasn't that important. So there's a few funny stories, but one of them, we went down the garden, it was a lovely day, we found a tennis ball. So his neighbour had one of them like laurel hedges that you could sort of run and do like a roly-poly jump to get over it, because it was quite wide. So anyway, a couple of lads came, "Come on, we'll have a game." So a couple of lads ran over this roly-poly over the side. So we started playing head tennis over the fence with the ball. So he come down, we hadn't realised, and he said, "Hey, you shithouses," like this. So we're like, so lads run and jump over the fence, you know what I mean? "What are you doing?" So anyway, I can't remember, it was Stan or something, in his broad Barnsley accent, which I'm not going to attempt to do, but he was just like, "Found this ball, so we're having a game of head tennis." And I swear I'm off, he went, "Well done, your trade, well done."
Brilliant.
We walked off, so we just jumped back out. We carried on playing head tennis.
Oh, mate. We went up on a Sunday, me, Vance Warner, Neil Glasser, Lee Marshall, because we were the Nottingham boys. The rest of the lads used to go home, didn't they?
Yeah.
So we went up on it was a Saturday morning he made us go up. Everyone had gone. And it might have been a Sunday. But made us pick up all the apples from his orchard. Orchard. So we're doing it, putting bin bags next to him. And Barbara's in the window there near the kitchen. We could see her cooking us all a big breakfast. And so we're stood there and we hear, poof, poof. What the f*** is that? Apples hitting the trees. He's only peppering us with the apples, isn't he? As we're trying to pick them all up, thinking, what's going on here? So anyway, we get back. We have the most. I've never known him like this. We had the most. It was almost Victorian. The breakfast we had after it was so civil and lovely, and the conversation was so polite because it was him and Barbara. He wasn't Brian Clough. He was just this lovely man with Barbara, and we're sat there like apple hanging off our hair and all kinds of stuff. I've been peppered for 20 minutes.
We were the same. There was once he had these bags of leaves, right? So he said, "Now then, young ginger." Oh, there's 2 funny stories. He went, "Now then, young ginger." So I said, "Yes, boss." He said, "Before we carry on, what's your actual name?" So I said, "Sean." He said, "From now on, it's Sean." So I said, "Okay, boss." Literally about 30 seconds later, he went, "Young ginger, get them bags of leaves." I thought I've obviously made a mark on him, you know what I mean? So I had to go down the bottom of his garden and I had to burn these leaves. So we get a fire started. So anyway, I'm lobbing these leaves on like you do as a kid, And of course they're smoking, so the wind's going up towards the house, a lovely house, and the wind's going up there. So he comes out the bar, I could just see him in the distance. He goes, "Hey, shit house, if that smoke comes in this window once more, I'm going to come down there and give you a hiding." Come on, So I swear, right, this carries on. He comes out again about, "Hey, shit house, I told you about them leaves." So I'm going, "Boss, I can't help it, I swear by the end, I'm putting like 1 leaf on. I'm going,
I'm blowing it the other way.
Yeah. It was like a cartoon, it was like, oh my God, honestly. But the same thing, we used to go to his house and he used to cook, when Brian was there, he cooked for you, and I'm not kidding, the amount of food, you've never seen anything like it.
Oh, it was the best breakfast I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, but you're like nervous because you think, I think we're meant to eat this. And there's no way you could eat it. It was like ridiculous amount of food. So this one day we finished, there was a lad called Nick Ashby, who's one of my scouts now, but me and him were apprentices together. I think Stoner was there and Stan or something like that. It might have been Stan or Kev Sharp. So we're sitting there one day and he brings out this coffee ice cream, and I can't stand it. So anyway, we're eating this coffee ice cream. I've got a big dollop, Ash is next to me. I've gone bang in his bowl. So now he's got this massive amount of ice cream. So we're sort of pissing ourselves laughing because we're nervous. Anyway, so I'm sitting there. Ash goes to do it back, misses, and it hits the deck. So now it's on the carpet, and we're like, So we're like scraping it off the carpet, rubbing it in and all that. So we put it up in the bowl, and it's got dog hair and everything in it. So we're smooth it over.
Oh my God.
Anyway, you think you're invisible, don't you? So anyway, boss, and he goes in the kitchen. He's obviously like gone to empty it, seen the dog, and he come back and he went, now then, you shit houses, you only had to say you didn't like it. Well, we were looking at it going, oh my, and in the world, you think, I think I'm going to get sacked. Oh my God. But anyway, back to your point, Michael, the same thing. So on his fireplace, there'd be rolls of notes. And to this day, we couldn't work out whether it was a little test. We thought, I wonder if he knows how much is there.
Yeah.
And there's 4 apprentices there and see if anything goes. And it was like rolls of notes, just like, well, back then, I mean, now it wouldn't be a lot. I don't know, like 500 quid or something. Bearing in mind at that time, you're on like 28.50 a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I couldn't work out to this day whether it was like, I wonder if he knew and if someone nabbed one, or he didn't know and it was just genuinely there. You know what I mean? But
well, I think whenever I tell that story, it's always about. I always tell it from the perspective that that's the amount of respect we had for him. That you walk into his office, there are piles of 20s sat there, and like you say, it's probably only 500 quid, but to me it looked like some Corleone
pirate's
desk
treasure,
or something.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And I stood there, and you go, and then I've got my dad, who's a scouse scally in the back of my head, going, "Go ahead, lad." It's your payday. And I'm just looking at it, and would always just go, just one off the top. Thanks, boss. You know what I mean? Would never dream of taking 2. Oh my God.
No, you just wouldn't do it. You know what I mean?
No.
And like say, you'd go, get yourself a tenner on the way out. But like you say, you took a tenner. That was it. End off. You ain't touching nothing else. He had an unbelievable power. I don't know. He's one of the rare people I've met who just have this thing. You can't quite. And we were young, of course. Don't get me wrong. Some of the older lads probably had a row with him back then. I know Piercy had a bit of a falling out and a few of the other players. But when you're young, it was like massive figure he was. You know what I mean? And you just whatever he said. You know what I mean? Just like, all right, boss, no problem. I once had to run him a bath. Right? Right? That sounds really simple. How the you get the right temperature on a bath for a grown man who's going to have a bath? And then I used to wait outside the room thinking, if I hear him go, "Hey, you shit house," I knew I put it too hot. I was like, oh God, all silly things like that.
Actually, can you remember a lad called John Finnegan?
Yeah.
Fins. So Fins tells a story that he went to run him a bath, and he went to run it, and there was no more hot water, so that all the game had finished. The lads had rinsed the hot water. There was nothing left. So he started running the hot tap, and it was just freezing. So he unpulled the plug and off. And so anyway, you hear, "Finnegan, I told you to run me a bath. Where is it?" And Fins goes in and goes, "Boss, there's no hot water." "Run me a bath, son." So he just runs him about. Well, he didn't. He come back out. He says, "Boss told me to run him a bath. It's cold water. What do I do?" And we all just went, "Just run him the bath, mate." So he ran the bath, freezing cold. Fins there, like shaking, scared stiff. That he's going to go, "Oh my God." He gets in it fully clothed. "Thank you, son." Hang on. I am 3 months out of school and this is my life. Right. Okay.
No, that's right. Yeah. Mad. You just weren't expecting any of this when you go there as a young apprentice. You know what I mean? You just weren't expecting any of this.
Nah.
That's what's so mad about it is, for me, growing up under Clough, I was a kid and a fan. So people like Gary Charles and Stuart Pearce were men. But I know now, watching football, young lads in football, they're still young, they're still learning. To be a kid who's not in the first team, having to answer to Brian Clough, must have been, on the one hand, amazing, like being a roadie for the Beatles or something. But on the other hand, the fear of God must have just been in you every day.
Well, you've got to remember that I was there when he went on the pitch and Cloughie.
Yeah, the QPR game.
Apprentice, yeah. So you're thinking, you're just looking at. We literally going to the lads, right? We used to sit on the edge of the ground and go, "This boss just smacked that geezer." Yeah. I think he's just hit someone else. And I went, "Yeah, he has, hasn't he?" We're going, it was surreal. We're going, I think he's, and then by about the third one, you think, "Oh, he's hitting another one." It was bizarre. He's the only person I say this a lot. I mean, I know life's changed, obviously. But nowadays, there'd be lawsuits everywhere. He actually, on Central News that Friday, got the two fellas to kiss him on the cheek and say sorry.
Amazing.
And one of them goes...
That footage is unbelievable.
It's the bit where the one goes, ooh, chase me.
Yeah.
I've met that bloke.
He's sort of like, if you think about it differently, look, times have changed, but he sort of had a point. He was saying, get off the pitch, don't come on the pitch. It's not your world. Your world's in the stands, not on the pitch. That was his point. Now, he did it in a way that is unacceptable, and it's certainly unacceptable today. It was unacceptable then, but now it'd be, I mean, imagine that now. If I ran on a pitch that I can't do, oh my God, I mean, he was just like, just like, stay off my pitch. Okay, fair enough.
You'd give him a proper clout though, mate, wouldn't you? Not a slap round the head.
With them funny ones, like, I weren't going to tell him, don't worry about that.
Because on the one hand, you're an ambitious young footballer. Your dream is to get in the first team and achieve all the things you could achieve in football. So that's one element of it. The other element is, at moments like that, you've got a ringside seat to this incredible individual. It's almost like being on the front row of the theatre.
Yeah, but like I say, it's not like, when you're in it, it's not like that. You're young. So when you first go in, right, some of these players, when I went, 87, right, you've got Des Walker and Stuart Pearce and Nige and Franzi and, Ricey and Steve Sutton and all these guys, right? And they're all pretty, big figures, really, you know what I mean? But it doesn't feel like that. Once you're in there and you're training every day, they're just people. And then, so even though the boss was the boss, he's still just a person. So I don't know why, but I can't explain to you. When that all kicked off, I wasn't thinking worldwide news. I was just thinking, that's the boss kind of being the boss. That's what he does. You know what I mean? I can assure you, I weren't thinking, wow, what's going on here? It's only when I look back when you think like, what was that all about? You know what I mean? But at that moment, you just kind of go, wake up the next morning, few headlines, everyone's back in training. Hey, shit's house, get the lads a lollipop. Lollipop. Life goes on. It's unbelievable.
Strawberry mevies from his shop, from the fridge, from the freezer.
Yeah, all sorts. Yeah. Strawberry splits. We used to have strawberry splits.
Splits, that was it. Yeah.
So, it was just, I don't know, it was quirky at the time, but they were incredibly, as you know, 87 around up here was an incredibly successful period in Forest history. So I was there for some brilliant times, I didn't break in. I wasn't got to the level, really. I broke my leg. Me and Steve Stein broke our legs when I was 17. But I never really got near to the first team, which is why I went on loan and then left. But I was still, I don't know, you're all involved. It was a different club then. It wasn't like the kids and the first team. Everyone was down the training ground together. Everyone was mixing. But there was a real unofficial hierarchy. Like, you wouldn't go in the first team room unless you give him boots or get him boots or you've got the curly finger. Trust me, the respect was through the roof. You wouldn't be in there. I wouldn't just bowl in going, all right, lads. It just wouldn't happen. There was like a respect line going down through the different groups. You know what I mean?
Was that something that Clough instilled, or that was just there almost naturally?
Generational thing as well. I think it was there in football. I think it was part of what sort of football was about then. You weren't your Spurs. I mean, I personally think, I suppose we have to be serious for 12 seconds or something. I personally think, there's the apprentices now, or the scholars don't do enough of that. I think there's too little hierarchy now. Some of the young kids just bowl around as if like, it's nothing to see a first team player. So I think there's actually too little of that now. But when I was playing, it was really clear. You're an apprentice, you get a young pro, and if you do really well, you're in the first team. But even when you're in the first team, some of the young pros, like Gary Charles, he used to change with us, because he still felt a bit weird about going in the first team room. And yet, he's a first team player. So, there was that kind of weird, almost like that respect level was really high then, really high.
And do you ever find yourself at any point in management either implementing things that you directly learned from Clough, or perhaps doing things almost subconsciously that were influenced by him?
Yeah, I think there's some things, but I think the main thing, looking back, was the simplicity. No, that's the wrong thing to say, actually. Simple doesn't mean it's easy. To set up the way that Clough did with his staff and the environment, the culture, the way things worked, that's not easy. So, I know that now because I do it. But there was a sort of simplicity to how they worked, the training, the feel, and what was expected from you as a person, not just a player. Certain standards were well and truly in place, and you had to deliver on them standards. So I think that was the key thing for me, the feel of it, the environment, the culture, but also the simple lines of communication, simplicity, but a lot of trust as well when I look back. You used to trust the players a lot, when I look back.
So do you do the same now with yours? Do you try and be like Clough in trusting players?
No, I don't try and be like him. I think good coaches are good thieves. We all nick a bit off everyone. And I think you end up being yourself, of course, but there's things that you can nick off others to use wisely. So there's little things that you do subliminally pinch. Obviously, I've got Woney with me, I've got Tony Loughlin with me as well. We were all together at Forest as well. So we remember, and Stoney, of course, as well with the under-23. So we'll sometimes have a cup of coffee and laugh about all these times and tell the same stories 1,000 times over it, But there was always an underlying kind of hierarchy of respect there. And I think that's one thing that's really important. I certainly take that very seriously in my groups, is respect. Two-way respect. With
young apprentices now, not, as you said, doing the same things that you might have done, is that something that you could bring in, or is that just like a cultural problem across football that one club wouldn't be able to really do that?
Well, there's so many rules and regulations now, and some rightly so, by the way. There are academies are a way better place now than they ever were. But what I'm saying is some of the simplistic things, the hierarchy, the respect, the self-learning. We were left a lot then to work it out. As young scholars, it was, apprentices. Archie Gemmell would be like, we wouldn't be telling you everything you needed to know. We have this funny thing, right? So we still say this now when we're having a laugh about all the Forest boys. So Archie Gemmell, he used to come right up into your face and he used to go, "Get a kick or and then he'd say it and then he'd scream it. He'd go, "Get a kick or off," like right in your face. I mean, like that far from your face. And still to this day, we go, I still haven't worked out what he meant. I don't really know what he meant, but somehow it gave you a prompt to do more, that's for sure. You'd certainly pull your finger out in old school speak, got to do something. And so now and again, the last time I did it, me and Stoney and Woney were on a charity golf thing in Portugal. And last year, I just happened to play with these fellas who I know a little bit. And I was telling them this story, and Stoney was on the other tee, and I said, "Get on this." I said, "Lads, get on this." And I went, "Stoney, get a kick or off." And straight away he screamed back at me, "Get a kick or off." Like that. We just shouting at each other. Stuff like that, stupid stuff. But at the time, it wasn't funny. But at the time, you were thinking, just be rinsed. You know what I mean? I remember
would he do that to Scott as well?
He was hard on Scott, too hard. I thought it was cringeably hard at times. I must say that I like Archie. I respect him, and he certainly made you tough. He made you stand up, that's for sure, as a young lad. But he was too hard on some players. He was hard on his son. He was hard on one of my mates who works for us now as a scout, Nick Ashby. I thought he was too hard. Like called Gary Brown, too hard. Too hard as young. I didn't know that then. You just get on with it. But now when I look back, but I remember they're not funny now, but these are funny stories. I can almost taste them, I think it was Monteterre, and we've been on this tournament and it hadn't gone that well, and I'd done quite well, I thought, and I'd done all right, and a couple of others. But he went around the room. This is Archie, right? So we're on this sort of trip, and these trips were like a mixed bag. So you might have older pros like Phil Starbuck and them there, maybe, Charles, he might have been, but he might have been around the first team group, and myself, Steve Stone, and people like that. So he went around the room, right? He got us in this room at a hotel, and he sort of said, "I'm going to tell you what I think here." So we're all sitting there, and he went, started on the right, and he went, "You shit, like that, just straight around the room, right? And I was sitting there, you're thinking,
how old were you?
I was like 17.
Brilliant.
And he's pointing at me, right, and he goes, did all right. And then he goes, shit. He comes around to Mark Crossley, right? A big Norm, obviously, and he goes, "Norman, you're like a beacon among shit. You've been remembered," something like that. We're all, and you can imagine, because once that happens, for the rest of the tour now, it's like everyone just shouting, "Norman, you're a beacon among shit," and all that. You know what I mean? You can imagine, So they inadvertently come out with these catchphrases and these little funny things, I'm sure my players are not about me now, because you forget they do pick up on things. But we used to have loads of them, absolutely loads of them, about the coaching staff and all that sort of stuff. And you probably too young, Macca, but we had Ron Fenton as well. And Ron Fenton was
I remember Ron, yeah.
Well, he was like a clone of Cloughie. So he used to try and do Cloughie's like mannerisms. So he used to go like, so Cloughie would go, hey, get on the front foot. So Ron would go, hey son, get on the front foot. Get on the front foot like this and just copy everything you said. I mean, here's one for you, another weird thing. So Ron Fenton, right, is a Geordie, and well, from the Northeast, he used to love, ridiculously, I mean, so obviously, he used to love anyone from the Northeast. So he'd come down the corridor and he'd go, hey son, I'm going to give you some stomachs. And you stand at the wall and he'd just smash you in the stomach.
Yeah.
10 times. And you just stand there and you just had to take it and he'd go, hey, not bad, but not as tough as the Geordies and all that. Oh my.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like,
Dyche, you were there obviously just before, as we've mentioned, but I remember, I don't know who exactly was in the youth team, but were you there when Boone filmed?
Yeah, when it was Kev Sharp, when Kev Sharp broke his leg.
That's right, yeah. Were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, not many people know that story.
Yeah, Boone as in the TV programme.
Yeah.
They asked young footballers to go and film. I think it was a prison scene at a prison.
That's right.
It seemed like a prison scene with some footballers playing. So to keep it as real as they could, they wanted some young footballers who knew what they were doing. So they were filming this thing. So a lad called Kev Sharp, good lad Sharpie.
He's good.
My age group, yeah. Him and people like Nick Danzig and all them. And he goes along, and the lad cuts across him and does it. Really breaks his leg.
An actor.
Yeah, no. An actor breaks his leg. Oh, no, yeah. And, I mean, there was a lawsuit and everything. There really was a lawsuit because it was outrageous. It was like, what are you doing? You know, the reason why I wasn't there, Macca, because I was already having an actual broken leg. You know what I mean?
I see.
Yeah. So it was that era. Yeah. So Sharpie, he ended up, I think eventually they had to pay him out or something, you know, because it was serious. He never got back. To
I know, ended his career. Some actor trying to give it the big one.
Yeah, trying to make it look real and all that, and properly topped him, yeah.
Sounds like a Sunday Sport headline, doesn't it? Boone ended my football career.
Hey, unless I'm right, you've arrived if you're in the Sunday Sport.
Well, or not. Or not,
yeah.
Would it be fair to say your Forest days were the happiest days of your life, Sean?
I think they were for different reasons. I mean, football, you know, you're joking apart, right? These are all great times. They really were great times. A lot of these guys are still friends of mine today. I mean, I spoke to Lee Glover. Well, me and Lee Glover, we go back since we were kids. So he was from Corby, I'm from Kettering, and all that sort of stuff. Me and Charlesy from when we were like 13, 14. Me and Stoney from when we were 13, 14. Still good friends now. And I think, you know, their formative years, I think they bond you, you know, when you're apprentices and scholars, as they call them now, and then young pros and all that sort of stuff. On the pitch as well, off the pitch, socially, going around Nottingham, you know, you're coming of age, you know what I mean? It was, you know, I'm turning up at Browns and all that back in the day down in Hockley and going to the club and you're getting in and stuff, you know, you ain't queuing, you're getting in and you're thinking, that'll do me. I was happy with that, just to walk to the front and get in will do me, you know what I mean? So you know, you forget these were important times. You're rounding yourself as a person as well as a footballer, you know what I mean? So I think that's why I speak so well of them at times. And I've always had a soft spot for Forest. I've always thought it was a great club. I always enjoy going back there with teams, whether I was a player, coach, you know, assistant with Malky Mackay, a manager. I just always enjoy. I still love Nottingham. When I can, I still go up and see Woney. You know, all the different eras you go through, some are more important than others. But because I was like 16, moved away from home at 16, living in Diggs, stayed there as a young pro, stayed there even when I went to Chesterfield for another 3 or 4 years, you know, living in Nottingham. And I think I'm kind of quite bonded to Nottingham. You know, I still get that weird feeling. You know, like when I go back to Nottingham now, I get that weird feeling in my stomach, like it's so, even though it's changed tremendously, you know, Nottingham, but it's like so familiar to me. Yeah. You know, it's like a nostalgic feeling. As you get older, you'll know what I mean. You know, you get that funny feeling inside yourself. And I still get it now. I still love going back to Nottingham when I can.
Do you get that? Do you feel like 16, 17 when you know the city ground, when you're coming over Trent Bridge? I've done like some bits of work around that area as well, and like whenever I go over Trent Bridge, I just get those butterflies again. Like I'm just going into work.
Well, I mean, it was probably different for me, Mike. Don't forget, I didn't play in the first team, so I played loads of games on the ground with the youth team and the 20. Well, nowadays the under 21s, whatever. But you know, then the reserves and stuff like that. But I think my only regret, well, it's not a regret because I probably weren't good enough at that time, you know. But I would have loved to have played for the first team. You know, that would have been such a big thing. But I've always had a little soft spot. Mind you, to be fair, it's not just Forest. I've enjoyed all the different clubs, all the different, and the highs and the lows of what it is to be a footballer. You know, it's hard at times, but I've enjoyed it. So, but it's just it was a very formative period of sort of becoming a young man. Not, you know, you go there as a boy at 16, and you have to learn, you know, you have to learn sharp. You know, you have to learn quickly. So I think it was a very important time for me, just as a bloke, you know, just a person, let alone a footballer.
And the time you're there, Forest, it's Clough's second wave. You go to Wembley twice sometimes each summer. There's the Simod Cup finals, the League Cup finals. Just there's so much going on. It must have been such an exciting time to be there. At any point, did you think you were going to get into the first team?
Not really. There was a couple before I broke my leg. I was doing really well in the reserves team, and you know, you get that. Not that you were the first team. You become quite a regular fixture in the reserves, because you've got to remember, reserve sounds different now. In them days, it was a fucking good team. The Central League, Cloughie used to take it really seriously.
They wanted to win it, didn't they?
Yeah. I remember winning it. My first year, I only played a few games. We had to parade the trophy around the ground at the last game of the season. He was mad for it, the gaffer. So I think it was so important that I was becoming more of a regular in the reserve setup with Archie, and then I broke my leg, you see. And then kind of got back from that and got fit. But then I went off on loan in the February, I think, off to Chesterfield. And to be honest, although Chesterfield was a small club, and when you play first team football, you know, it was within me. I didn't want to go back and be in the reserves. I wanted to get out there and play, and I was really, really hungry for it. So I'm not saying it's right for everyone, but for me, it was right at that time to go, do you know what, I'm not even going to look backwards. I'm just going to go and play. So I don't regret it at all. You know, I could have gone back to Forest and took my chances, but I just got out there playing, but I've got no regrets for it.
We had a number of emails from fans very excited that you were coming on. Thomas
couldn't have been that excited about my Forest career.
Thomas Newton says, on Monday night I play 7-a-side football. I play with a lad called Jason Fletcher, who was an apprentice with Sean Dyche, Mark Clough, etc. Does Sean remember Fletch?
Yeah, super. Good lad. He was short for a centre half, but he was another one. So Archie, he was another one that had the saying. So he used to go, Fletcher, you've got a heart as big as a bucket. That's what he used to say to him. And he was. Fletcher wears his heart on his sleeve. He was tough, uncompromising, quite squat, but super strong for a young lad. I mean, really tough, really strong lad. One of them sort of bright, dim lads, you know, like he was actually quite bright, but he always used to say daft things and we used to cane him for it. But no, really, really good lad. So if he gets this reply, you know, it'd be great to send him my best, that's for sure.
Craig got in touch. I think he used to live with you, but he wasn't a player. He said you're known for your fashion sense, wearing Ted Baker outfits down at New York.
Yeah, me and Stoney, we were, well, Craig Boardman, Stan, he was right into it. He was massively into it.
I bought loads of gear off Stan, loads of second-hand gear.
He was mad for it, Stan. But we all, so in 87, you go away, you know, you're coming of age now, but we used to go down Limeys and we used to shop with the bird cage and stuff like that. So we used to go Culture Vulture and these shops.
Culture Vulture, yes.
Down in Hockley,
G-Force.
Yeah. So we used to go in and nick the odd T-shirt, pair of jeans and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we were quite into it for a bit. And then Ted Baker opened one shop before Ted Baker is what he is now. There was one shop in the middle of the square, and you used to go in. They only did 40 of each shirt around the country. As well, I think he only had like 4 shops at that time, or 3 shops. So if you bought a shirt there, you knew that it probably wasn't going to be seen that much.
Yeah.
So, but they were like 40 quid, which doesn't sound a lot now, but you know, we were on 28.50 a week. You know what I mean? So yeah, we used to buzz off the Ted Baker shirt and other stuff. But yeah, we used to get that Limeys, and hopefully there'd be a sale on, nick ourselves a Ralph Lauren or something like that. Pair of Rockports, pair of Aviator jeans. Charles, he was always in front of the curve. Gaz Charles still looks amazing now. I saw him not so long ago. He looked immaculate. Charles, he always looks immaculate.
I bought my first Stone Island jumper off Charlesy, and I think he made on it, to be fair.
Charles, he used to be unreal, because Charles was in front of the curve with his contracts and that as well, you see, because he was honestly, what a player. Him and Lee Glover, best 2 young players I've ever seen. Charles was Rolls Royce, no 2 ways about it. Class. You could play him anywhere. He's the best right back who you could play centre forward, I'm telling you, in training and that. But no, he had a bit going on.
Fast as well, mate.
Cool, he was, yeah, really fast. And good, really good lad. I mean, like I say, he's had his ups and downs quite obviously, I'm sure you're aware, but no, he's a good fella, Charles, yeah.
Craig also said, Sean Dyche was a very bright lad, and there was usually a battle with him and Jock McLaughlin as to who got to the Times crossword first. Is he still really good at crosswords?
Is he still doing it?
I don't think it's quite accurate. I don't think, because Jock was thick as mint, so it wasn't Jock, but I was probably mildly more mature, I must say, than some of the other lads, I think. And I probably treated Craig certainly slightly better than Stoney did, the cheeky beggar. But no, that's funny. Yeah, God, yeah, Craig, yeah. I'm sure there was an article in the paper about him a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, about how he'd gone on and done quite well, and how Cloughie, the backstory sort of thing. But no, he was a good lad, Craig, and it was hard for him because Cloughie kind of put him in the digs. I mean, young footballers weren't exactly backward in coming forward. You know what I mean? The stick we used to give each other, honestly, you'd eat each other alive, and he had to somehow survive that. You know what I mean? And he'd done well to just get the old tin out of him, I think.
Well, it was vicious, mate, wasn't it? Coming out of not being in the game. I mean, you've always been in the game, but not being in the game, you have to check yourself. Have you I don't know if you've heard that before, but having banter in the pub or anything like that, or having a laugh with a few people, you've really got to check yourself, because it was so sharp and vicious. Dressing rooms. I mean, you're a samurai sword in terms of wit.
In certain circles, especially new circles, when my wife's friends have down the years, and you meet some lads you don't know, and you're giving them a bit of heat, and they're looking at you, you think, I better reel that in, because they're what did he just say? And I go, no, it's like fun. And they go, that didn't sound very funny. And you think, it's like the Matrix.
Yeah.
As they're flying past, you know what I mean? It's just like, I was like,
Craig, he tipped us off about a lot of things, Craig, but he ended on a lovely note. He said, finally, just to comment for Sean personally, he gave me some great advice, which I listened to too late, but I've always kept a close eye on his career, and he's made me proud to have known him. Not just for the manager he's become, but also for the man he's become. He talks so much sense. Brian would also be proud of him and his principles.
No, fair play to him. Well, I wish him well, and I'm pleased that he's sort of stretched out to say hello. Reached out, sorry, I should say. Yeah, no, fair play.
So that's a nice... a lot of people... I mean, it's remarkable, given the time that you had as a trainee, the amount of people that got in touch and knew so much about your time at Forest and remembered you so vividly. So you obviously left an impression on a lot of people.
I can imagine the birds. There must have been flocks of birds.
Yeah, I think they must have sent it to the wrong email or something.
Before anyone complains, that does mean women. I'm not being derogatory, because trust me, in my world now, someone will put a complaint in and say he called us birds. I'm not saying that. It's a generalised view of the past of 1987. Before someone complains, trust me, I live in this world now. There'll be someone who goes, you shouldn't be saying that. Oh, goodness me.
And you treated them with the utmost respect back then that they deserved, didn't you?
I was a very good boy, I love you, know.
Exactly.
Well, when you got ginger hair, it's hard not to be. When it was flocking over me, let's say.
And was Murder in the Dark getting played when you were there?
I don't know about Murder in the Dark, but there was some interesting. We all the old Apprentice stuff, which you would never get away with nowadays. We put people in the dryers. We used to lock people in. One of the best ones. Oh, by the way, this is really dangerous. Me and Stoney still laugh at this. When we were properly young, because Woney came late, you see, we used to get a broom handle and lock people in the sauna. You think now, it's dangerous. Oh yeah, we used to lock people in the sauna. It was mental.
Well, the sauna was a room within a room, wasn't it? It was a room next to the boot room, and there was a sauna within that room that had handles that you could fit a broom handle.
Yeah, so the lads used to ramp it up, get loads of water and get the steam in there, and then you just go, I've had enough, lads. You go out, bang. I mean, mental. I mean, you look back now and it's bloody dangerous. I mean, we wouldn't leave them there for too long, but you leave them there long enough where they were going,
they're banging on the wall, yeah. But it was like, because it was a room within a room, it was like Alien, wasn't it? It was like, there's no screaming in space. You just couldn't hear anyone.
Then we used to have an electrode machine that used to put on muscles called the interferential.
Oh, my God.
You could turn it up, so people would be sitting there and you just talk with them casually, and you just get your hand on the dial and just go, whack, like that, and you just go, and be like,
So,
just mad stuff.
Mate, on your groin or your hammy or something like that. I mean, you were hitting the roof.
Just a knack on your groin.
Yeah.
So your adductor used to go, because it sends electric current into your muscles, so your muscles go, and you go,
You'd be holding the machine, wouldn't you? Certain people would come in like Woney or someone. Yeah. You just go, nah, hey, and you just hug the machine next to you, just have it next to you.
I mean, I remember, this is mad, right? But it's a true story. We used to have to do jobs, right, in the ground. So you used to rotate, like you do the office, you do the groundsman, you do, stuff like that as part of your apprenticeship. So when I very first went there in 87, we'd do the pitch. So we used to go to, I think it was Billy Wright. We'd go, Billy, come on, let's go on the stand. We used to climb up to the top of the stand and go on the top of the stand. No safety stuff, nothing.
Oh, man.
And we used to arch over to the end, to the end of it, and look down and like. I mean, you look back now and it's like, you've got to be kidding me.
My God.
We used to buzz off it. We used to absolutely buzz off it. We're only allowed up there. Like, they'd only let us up there once because we used to ag the granny out of him until eventually go, come on. So we're only allowed up there once. But, I mean, look back now and you just think, there's a different generation. It was a lot more trust involved then. A lot more, I don't know how to describe it. There was a lot more trust both ways. You know what I mean? It was I don't know. It was a different era, completely different era. So you can't judge it now, because it seems madness. But at the time, it was pretty normal. You know what I mean?
That sounds absolutely mad.
Would you let one of your star 18-year-olds scale Burnley's?
No.
Get up there, do you, good lad?
No, bear in mind I was 16 and I wasn't a star. He falls off, it's all right. If it was Charlie, then we go, don't let Charlie grow.
There'd have been statues erected.
Yeah, me, they were going, let him grow.
Oh, Sean, this has been so much fun. Mate. Thank you so much for doing it. Next time you're in Nottingham, we could all meet up. Go back to Brown's afterwards.
Brown's is my favourite. I've had many a good night in Brown's.
Well, let's go back.
Let's do it.
Nice.
Pop over to the market bar while we're at it.
No worries. Take care, lads.
Well, there you go, Sean Dyche. What an episode. I'll tell you what, after this, I was sat on the settee just buzzing after talking to him and hearing his stories. The impression I was left with was like, he went to Grange Hill and Cloughie was the headmaster. Like there were just sausages flying everywhere. That was the kind of image that he painted.
Yeah. I mean, you just got the impression, didn't you, that they were the greatest days of his life, and he just looks back upon them as these amazing formative years with these friends that he's grown up with, that he's still friends with, and it really informed him as a man and as a footballer, etc. It was like, lovely.
Hearing him talk about it was the way that people reminisce about their school years. It felt
really
like all the stories took place in the summertime. Do you know what I mean? It felt so warm. It was such an experience. And what a friendly bloke. Just an open, friendly man.
Oh, yeah. Apart from when he lashes out straight away at my sweater. Well, what was that all about? Did you like it, Matt?
What, your sweater?
Yeah. What did you think to it?
I thought it was cool. It had a sort of tartan effect. Possibly a Burberry check. That sort of vibe.
Yeah.
You look great in any top. But that was just an absolute treat.
Oh, well, thank you.
It
was amazing, yeah.
Do share it. Do tell all your friends about it. Spread it around the internet. Tweet us and follow us at RRD1865. Email the show, rrd1865@outlook.com, with any memories of any other guests that we've had on. Also, if you know someone who's worked at Forest or played for Forest at any level, the whole point of this show is we get people from any level and any level of experience on to get the whole view of what it's like to play for Forest. So do let us know. I'm just still buzzing from it, Paul. I just thought that was such a special episode.
It was great, wasn't it? And like you said, we always say that was the best one, that was the best one. But they're just all great. It's such a privilege. It's just all great for their own reasons. Just lovely to listen to, like you say, how fondly he speaks of his short period of time at the club and the relationships that he built at the club that have lasted to this day. Brilliant.
It was magic. So thank you for listening.
It's a different world entirely.
Thank you for sharing. Spread the word, and we'll see you next week. You Reds.
Stay safe.